U.S. says it has no role in Israel protests after accusations. Biden bans government use of some spyware for national security. American IQs may be falling after 100-year rise. At least 2 killed in knife attack at an Ismaili center in Lisbon. Zakat to the United Nations benefits 6 million refugees in 26 countries. French Muslim women with hijab have a 1% chance of finding a job. Mexican Muslim community shares joy of Ramadan. From Toronto studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Saamiyah Syed. Our top story tonight. On Monday, the U.S. said accusations by Yair Netanyahu, son of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, that it was behind widespread social unrest in Israel is false. State Department spokesperson Vedant Patel rejected any idea that the U.S. is propping up or supporting these protests or initiating them. Israel has seen mass protests over the past 12 weeks against plans by Netanyahu's government for judicial reform. The changes are seen by the opposition as an attempt to reduce the powers of the judiciary in favor of the executive branch. Last Friday, Yair Netanyahu retweeted a Twitter post suggesting the Biden administration is secretly supporting the demonstrations to overthrow his father. Another post he retweeted included an article from the far-right Breitbart News website. It suggested that the State Department is fomenting unrest to bring Israel to negotiations with Iran. Patel acknowledged funding the Israeli Movement for Quality Government (NGO). He said it received a modest grant from the State Department that was initiated during the previous administration, and the latest dispersal of funds came in September of 2022. U.S. President Joe Biden issued an executive order on Monday banning government agencies from using commercial spyware that poses a risk to national security. The White House said commercial spyware has proliferated in recent years with few controls and a high risk of abuse. The order says the U.S. must establish procedures to ensure the responsible use of commercial spyware, protecting its interests and information systems. It also cannot contribute to its misuse by foreign governments, some of which have deployed this technology to facilitate repression and enable human rights abuses. Biden's order requires federal departments and agencies to not make operational use of commercial spyware where such use poses significant counterintelligence or security risks to the government. A new study of human intelligence has found American IQs rose dramatically over the past century, but now seem to be falling. Researchers at Northwestern University and the University of Oregon found that between 2006 and 2018, cognitive abilities declined across 3 of 4 domains of intelligence. Over the 12-year span, IQ scores dipped up to 2 points in 3 areas: logic, vocabulary, visual and mathematical problem-solving, and analogies. Researchers noticed decline across age groups, educational levels, and genders. The steepest drop was among younger and less educated test takers. The study also noted that IQ scores only rose in spatial reasoning. That measures the mind's ability to analyze 3-dimensional objects. The study was published in May-June issue of the Journal of Intelligence. The Senate on Wednesday voted to repeal a pair of authorizations for use of military force with bipartisan support. The move is a step toward closing the door on the Iraq War 20 years after it started. There have been 460,000 deaths in Iraq as a direct or indirect result of the war. Senators voted 66-30 to officially repeal the 1991 authorization for the Gulf War and the 2002 authorization that led to the Iraq War the following March. The bill now goes to the House. Speaker Kevin McCarthy of California and other Republicans have signaled support for the legislation. Senators Tim Kaine of Virginia and Todd Young of Indiana co-sponsored the bill. The duo argues Iraq is now a strategic ally of the US in the Middle East, and repealing the authorization sends a signal of support to the nation. A judge has struck down former Vice President Mike Pence's reasoning for refusing to testify in the special counsel Jack Smith's probe of the January 6, 2021 Capitol violence. CNN reports Judge James Boasberg ordered Pence to answer Smith's questions about conversations he had with Trump in the lead-up to January 6th. Pro-Trump rioters broke into the U.S. Capitol building and chanted for Pence to be hung for his refusal to throw out certified results of President Biden's electoral win. The judge's ruling allows Pence to decline to answer questions related to his actions on January 6 itself when he was serving as president of the Senate for the certification of the 2020 presidential election. Pence has condemned Trump for endangering his family on January 6 by sending violent rioters to ransack the Capitol building. But he has also resisted Smith's efforts to compel his testimony in the investigation. A story on a knife attack in Portugal's Ismaili Center comes with details after the break, so stay tuned and we will be right back. Welcome back. 2 people were killed and more were injured in a knife attack at the Ismaili Center in Portugal's capital, Lisbon, on Tuesday. Portuguese police said they shot the knife-wielding attacker after he disobeyed their orders to stop attacking. The shot wounded the attacker, who was arrested and hospitalized. Portuguese Prime Minister Antonio Costa expressed his solidarity and condolences to the Ismaili community and the families of the victims. He said authorities are investigating the incident and it is still premature to jump to any conclusions about the motives of the attack. There are an estimated 12 million to 15 million Ismailis living in more than 25 countries worldwide. A new report released on Monday says Canada's tax department should provide training to end unconscious bias when dealing with Muslim charities. The Office of the Taxpayer's Ombudsperson report found that bias creeps in unconsciously. It said training would improve the Canada Revenue Agency's services to both Muslim-led charities and charities in general. Despite this, the report identified opportunities for the CRA to improve the service it provides to charities. The National Council of Canadian Muslims, or NCCM, has for years accused the CRA of bias against Muslim charities. The council wants audits stopped while a comprehensive review of the CRA is completed. Islamic giving plays an increasing role in helping forcibly displaced people, a UN refugee agency official said. The 5th Islamic Philanthropy Annual Report was launched at the start of Ramadan last week. It said 6 million forcibly displaced people living in 26 countries have benefited from Zakat and Sadaqah funds since the UNHCR's Refugee Zakat Fund was piloted in 2017. Through the Refugee Zakat Fund, UNHCR received more than $21.3 million in Zakat contributions last year and more than $16 million in Sadaqah donations. Khalid Khalifa is Senior Advisor to the High Commissioner for Refugees and UNHCR representative to Gulf Cooperation Council countries. He said, while this is a small portion of UNHCR's global expenditure, its importance and impact on the displaced is growing. Cash assistance was provided to refugees in Egypt, India, Indonesia, Lebanon, Mauritania, and Tunisia, among other Muslim countries. It also was given to internally displaced people in Afghanistan, Iraq, Somalia, and Yemen, the report says. French Muslims applying for a job are 5 times more likely to face discrimination than non-Muslims. And Muslim women who wear hijab have a 1% chance of finding employment. Paris-based political analyst and rights activist Yasser Louati cited those examples when he spoke to Anadolu Agency about life for Muslims in France. He said it takes twice as long to get housing for people identified either as African, North African, or Muslim. Louety added that young Muslims in France are primary targets of police brutality. European Islamophobia Report 2022 co-editor Enis Barakla named France as one of the most Islamophobic countries last year. Oriane Freschi, a French jurist and researcher at the British advocacy group CAGE, said that fear and trauma is still part of our psychology. Around 60,000 Syrians in Türkiye have returned to their homeland since the February 6 earthquakes, the Turkish National Defense Minister said. Speaking in the quake-hit Hatay province, Hulusi Akar rebuffed claims of illegal crossings at the Turkish border, saying it is absolutely untrue. He said Türkiye's borders are being intensely protected, guarded, and monitored on a 24/7 basis with state-of-the-art technology vehicles and equipment. The Turkish defense chief added that claims of an influx of Syrian refugees to Türkiye via its southern border are clearly untrue. On February 6, a magnitude 7.7 and 7.6 earthquakes struck 11 Turkish provinces and parts of Syria, killing more than 50,000 people. Over 13.5 million people in Türkiye have been affected by the earthquakes, as well as many others in northern Syria. Muslims who live in Mexico City, together with Mexican converts to Islam, are sharing the joy of Ramadan. Ramadan is a month marked by fasting from dawn to dusk, and it began on March 23rd. Fasting is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. Lama Nasser, who is from Palestine, told Yeni Sefak newspaper that there are many Mexican converts, and it is very nice to know their stories and how they converted to Islam. Among them is Fatima, who embraced Islam 12 years ago. She said it was difficult at first because her family didn't accept her conversion. Fatima said this was because of media reports that labeled Muslims as terrorists. But then they started to come and see everything I was doing inside the mosque, and they started to accept me, she said. The Eid al-Fitr holiday will mark the end of Ramadan on April 21st. Before we end today's news segment, I would like to extend a special request. It takes about 55 hours of work per day to produce this news segment for you, and it brings news with a unique perspective, and you can find it only here on Muslim Network TV. Sound Vision is a not-for-profit organization which produces it, and just like PBS and NPR, we depend on your donations. Please visit muslimnetwork.tv to donate now, or click the link below to donate. That's all from our Toronto studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can find previous episodes and more on our YouTube channel. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Assalamu alaikum and good night.